Whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'll go. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Nathan Chung, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Celine Pypaert, who today will be presenting Hack Your Present to Build the Future You Want. Yep, then kick us off, Celine.
Thanks, Nathan. So thanks everyone. Thanks for joining my talk. So yeah, it's just kind of an interesting title. I just thought I would just kind of share my journey of how I got into tech, and just kind of the tips and the things I've learned along the way, and yeah, just hoping to inspire or maybe help with your journey, and yeah, see if there's any discussion or anything that you want to share as well. So I'm Celine Pypaert. I'm a security and compliance technical specialist at Microsoft. Okay, so just a bit about my background, just briefly. So it's quite interesting. I'm still quite new to tech. I entered tech literally 2 years ago through a cybersecurity internship, after which I then joined VMware in 2019. And yeah, and so now I'm a security and compliance tech specialist at Microsoft. So I work in the UK public sector in the modern work solutions, and specifically I work for the local and regional governments. So I'm actually in technical pre-sales, which I joined about 1.5 years ago, and I found out that I really like the mixture of the tech with the kind of sales and pre-sales and business mixture. So yeah, so here are just some pictures, just to describe. This is just some pictures along the way when I started learning, tech. So on the top left is me at one of the first hackathons I went to, where I learned Rust and a bit of Rust and Go programming language. And there's also a picture of me and some of the other VMware interns. So that was the second internship that I was in. And then a picture of me at Black Hats. So that was my first major cybersecurity conference where I won a scholarship to. So yeah, so I kind of have an unusual story. So it wasn't a straight trajectory. I saw that one of the other sessions is about having an unusual trajectory into tech. And so I kind of thought, oh, that sounds really relatable. But yeah, so what happened is when I first went to school, when I first went to university, my education was, it was actually kind of stopped for a few reasons. But one of the major reasons was that I lost my father to cancer right at the time of the Great Recession in the United States. And we ended up losing the family home. I was without health insurance for years. I ended up being thrust into poverty, and in which I experienced some homelessness even at the worst time. And basically at that point, it just became about survival. I kind of just gave up on getting a bachelor's or any kind of degree because it was expensive. I just kind of gave up on my dream, right? I thought, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And at that point, it just became about survival, right? About doing odd jobs or trying to find, just getting by, really. And yeah, and so basically I spent my 20s just kind of almost giving up on a career or finding my dream job and that kind of a thing. I thought about going back to school, but that was expensive and it just didn't seem feasible before. But then, yeah, what happened is towards the end of my 20s, I actually accidentally got into computers, and specifically into cybersecurity. It was partly because I had a problem with one of my computers. Well, actually, my only computer at that point. Obviously, this was before now I have multiple computers with my job. But yeah, so I had a problem with my laptop, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be too expensive to bring into a computer repair shop. So I tried to figure it out myself. And this is where I stumbled into, I actually found out about Linux. I tried Linux and I thought, okay, this is really hardcore, my first time doing command line and trying to figure it all out. And then it was just kind of a rabbit hole ever since. I found out about open source community, about software, about cryptography, about cybersecurity. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's actually an amazing world out there. And when I found out that, instead of just being a user, being able to learn how the machine works, and being able to kind of be in control of it, instead of just being a user and not knowing how it actually works. It was an amazing feeling. So that's when I just fell in love with computers. And I decided, you know what, why don't I go back to school, go back to uni, risk taking that student loan debt, and maybe this is what I want to do, something that has to do with computers, right? Something that has to do with IT. So I decided at 29 to go back to school for a bachelor's in computer science. Yeah, I just thought, okay, I have a lot of years to catch up on. I thought, is this the right choice for me? I would be there with a bunch of 18-year-olds, and here I am 10 years later, am I too old? And so there were all these doubts in my head, like, am I making the right choice? Is it worth it? Is it too late? And I even had a couple of guys who told me, oh, you should just give up on computer science. You don't have a chance. Just keep doing your crappy minimum wage, jobs that, are not fulfilling and not paying you much and where you don't have much chance of moving up. But stay in that because it's comfortable and it's actually, it's something secure, right? It's a paycheck. And I thought, no, like I can't do that for the rest of my life, and living paycheck to paycheck. So I decided to take the risk and just go for it. So yeah, there are some challenges as well, despite aside from the doubts and the wondering if it was going to pay off, right? If the investment of the student loan debt was going to pay off in the end. There was a lot of, that's when I started to face imposter syndrome, which I'm sure, many of you are familiar with. And I know it's also a theme in the conference with a bunch of other sessions. In my second year, there was a cybersecurity internship open for students only. And I was really interested in doing it. But I was afraid, right? I didn't think I deserved it. I thought, I'm only a student. I don't know anything. I don't have any tech experience. I don't have any, like really, I'm not an expert. So I thought I just almost didn't apply to it. And what I had learned at uni so far was mostly programming focused. There wasn't really anything yet in security. And so I had to supplement a lot of the learning. So I had to teach myself. I even taught myself some pen testing, privilege escalation, Linux command line and things like that, on top of studying full time for my actual course, my actual classes, and a part-time job to support myself. But yeah, so I just kind of persevered and didn't give up. And then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. It doesn't hurt to try, right? Worst case, I get a rejection. So I applied to the internship, and it turns out there were not many applicants. And for some reason, I guess they chose me. And so I actually ended up getting the internship. And yeah, and now 2 years later, I have an early but flourishing career, and I'm in tech now, like officially, I've made it. And some of the lessons I've learned is that, challenges in your life, whatever happens, even if it's outside of your control, it builds resilience in us, right? And this resilience, we can use it for good. You can't control what happens in life, what happens to you, or things that are out of your control. However, you can control how you react to it or what you do with it. And so I think that if you try to kind of see the good side of things, and if you try to use it for good, you can channel it in a positive way, and you can use it for yourself. You can use it to rebuild. And it's not that the bad, the bad things I went through in the past, it's not that I'm happy it happens, but I kind of tell myself I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for those trajectories, if it wasn't for, some of those obstacles. And yeah, so there's just a poll that I would like to just kind of ask you, and it's just, have you struggled with imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you personally handle it? Do you have any tips, or have you found anything that helps you cope? And yeah, so if you've got anything, or just feel free to share. And then we can even talk about it in the Q&A, for an example, or if you want to post it in the Zoom chat, that's fine as well. So I'll just give a bit of a minute, or if anyone wants to go off mute and just share now, or. Just wait a bit longer. Okay, and so, yeah, so just to kind of go back to what I said about going for it and taking a risk, sometimes in life we might get into a comfort zone and be afraid of, taking that extra risk, taking that night class, or trying to upskill, or reaching out to that person, or, make a website, or start a business, or write a book, or apply for a talk. But the thing that I would say is definitely consider your options. Nowadays we are in the information age, and I believe that now more than ever we have so many opportunities available. And so, yeah, I would say try to figure out something that you'd like to do, and just take a risk, right? Take a leap of faith and go for it. something that you feel a need to do, something that will fulfill you or that will bring good in the world, one of your life goals, really. And if you're worried about if it's worth it or what you might lose, maybe just make a list of pros and cons, just to weigh the potential benefits, right? Just kind of see, okay, you know, I might risk this, you know, going and taking that job in that startup, it's a risk, but maybe it'll bring a lot of good. And yeah, so just kind of think about what you might lose if you miss out on the good that could come out of it. And so that's just kind of something that has kind of shifted in my mindset, and that's helped me to take that risk. And yeah, like another thing that I like to really that I really like to talk about as well is the fact that traditional trajectories or traditional paths, it's not always the only option, right? You know, we're often taught at school that, oh, you know, your only option is go to college, go to university, get a degree, you know, do this, do that, you know, become this, become that. And don't get me wrong, like studies are important, especially in our day and age, you know, to stand out in the market and the competition and everything. So it's definitely important, you know, if you can do it, right? But definitely look at the alternatives, or look also at the things that you can add to that, right? So, you know, sometimes you hear people saying that a bachelor's is not enough anymore, you need a master's. Well, maybe also consider, you know, doing some internships or looking at volunteering opportunities, even volunteering at conferences such as this one. See what you can do and bring out to the community, right? And things that can make you shine on your resume. Yeah, and another thing as well, especially if you're interested in tech and like the more kind of technical things maybe as well, is hackathons. You know, despite COVID and everything being, a lot of things being remote, there are still a lot of hackathons happening. I'm going to share some resources that you can use to find out about the, you know, the upcoming hackathons and how you can take part. They're a really great way of learning new skills and meeting new people, and then also especially to create a project or even just start a project, even if it's in discovery mode or like a blueprint or something, or you know, and yeah, they're a really great way as well of meeting prospective employers and things like that. And then conferences again, like I had mentioned, they're really great, you know, such as such as the one that we're attending right now. A great way to meet people and to learn lots of new things. And then if you're interested in cybersecurity, there's something called CTFs, or Capture the Flag challenges. So what those are, it's these practical challenges that you do online in a virtualized sandboxed environment. And it's simulations. So it's like attack simulations, or trying to find, you know, a flag in some code somewhere. And if you can find it, then it shows, you know, then you know, or you learn the skill, and then you know, oh, okay, I can do this. So they're just kind of a simulated way to learn the practical security challenges out there. And then there's bug bounties as well. So bug bounties is a good way to gain that experience, to report bugs, and you can even often make money from that. Yeah, and then if you want to learn about, you know, if you want to learn some programming languages, or make your own website, or if you just want to upskill or learn new languages, there's things like Free Code Camp and Code Academy. For cybersecurity, which is my field, there's one that I really like called the Cyber Mentor. And so what they do is they provide you this affordable, sometimes free, ethical hacking courses. And it's yeah, it's really helpful if you want to start getting into the security field, and, you know, maybe get into pen testing or things like that. And then there's Code Your Future. So I've actually recently signed up to it. So Code Your Future is a nonprofit that serves refugees and other disadvantaged people by teaching them coding skills, as well as you know, how to find a job and things like that. And then you've got virtual meetups and communities. You know, so I'm sure lots of you are maybe already on LinkedIn, but I find that LinkedIn communities are really great. Sometimes you'll even get these invites for some virtual meetups where you can actually chat with each other and maybe even find a mentor that way. There's also Women Who Code. There's a Meetup app, which I find really helps with finding remotes, as well as before COVID, finding in-person events, especially local events. And some of them are very specific, like IoT security, or, you know, women in open source and things like that. There's women in cybersecurity, and then there's Discord communities as well, which can be really helpful. So yeah, so here are some of the resources that I've found were really helpful for me when I started learning to code. There's Free Code Camp, which is a really great way to not only learn coding languages within an interactive browser experience, which is amazing, right? You don't have to like fiddle around with setting up, an IDE and a development environment, at least not yet. And then you can also learn how to make your own websites, and you can even contribute to open source and help charities. So that again is a great way to give back to the community, as well as add something on your CV, on your resume. And then you've got hackathons. So I really suggest DevPost. I found DevPost to be a really good website for finding the upcoming hackathons. And some of them are very specific. Like there might be a blockchain, fintech hackathon or something like that. And they also often have prizes. And then there's the Meetup app as well, as I had mentioned. Just gonna check. Here you go. Okay, and then if you're more into the security, especially offensive security, things like pen testing or ethical hacking or web app security, there's things like the CTFs, as I had mentioned, and bug bounties. So just so you know, these resources, they're all legal and legit. I've double checked. So you've got so for Capture the Flags, you've got Hack the Box. So again, this is all interactive within a safe, in-browser experience, and it's all simulated. You've got Pico CTF, and just so you know, these often sometimes provide you like virtual machines as well. That's why they call them boxes. And then there's Over the Wire. So a really famous one is War Games, and this one's really good. It's a really good way for you to test your offensive security technical skills. And then you've got bug bounties. So probably the most famous one is HackerOne. They're really great. They've even been used by the US government in finding some of the biggest bugs. And the reason why they have these programs is so that big companies can use the public, can use good ethical hackers to report bugs to them. And then that way they can patch those bugs. They can fix those issues, right, before the bad guys get to them. And then there's also BugCrowd and Yes We Hack. Okay, and so another thing that I would really, that I definitely really suggest, I'm sure that this is also a big theme as well here, that, today, is networking. So I've personally found networking to really be key in my career. It's actually, in part thanks to my LinkedIn that VMware had reached out to me for an example, for that internship at VMware. It's how I've found people working at lots of big companies. It's how I've found, cybersecurity. I've actually found some pretty good cybersecurity communities, and there was even one that's actually reached to me and said that they'd like me to give a security talk. So again, when you network, you can really meet lots of people. You can meet people from companies. You can find job opportunities. But yeah, I find it really helps, especially if you're switching careers or if you're returning to a career later in life. And yeah, aside from these communities and networking, something that's really helpful, and I saw that this is also a theme, it's definitely to find a mentor. So find a mentor, whether it's in your current job, in your job, at your school, in the community. And if possible, find someone to sponsor you. So find someone who will actually really lift you up and help you upskill or help you to really get to that next stage where you need to go. So yeah, so one tip that really helped me, especially in the beginning of my career, was to remember that people are humans, right? Something that I really like in security is the idea of social engineering or human hacking. And one of the things to remember, because in the very beginning, I was nervous talking to a director. I thought, oh my gosh, he or she is so far up ahead. I'm just this little intern. But actually, just remember, they're a human being like you, and they were at your stage. So don't be daunted or afraid by someone's title or position, of course, with respect and everything, but just remember they're a human being. And when you remember they're just another person that, you might want to maybe grab a coffee with or have a drink with, just like remember that in your head. And I find it really helps when you're talking to them to just, you can kind of be almost like buddies, sort of, depending on the professional setting. But, and then another tip is, is yeah, like don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to send that message on LinkedIn or follow or maybe a connection request. Don't be afraid to ask for a call, for a chat. You know, reach out to someone in the industry that interests you, or even in the department or team that interests you where you want to work at. So here's another poll that, you know, I'm sure that you saw when you joined this talk. It's just so for you, if professional networking has helped you, if you can maybe share for the rest of us, what is your top tip to share to other participants? You know, what helps you the most when it comes to networking? There you go. I'm just gonna see. Yeah, the thing is I can't see the answers right now at the same time, but I'll check them after at the Q&A and then we can have a discussion together. So yeah, so I think another thing that probably a lot of you have heard of, it's the concept of growth mindset. So it's this idea that talent and skills are not static. They're not something that you're automatically born with. No one comes out of the womb knowing how to program or knowing how to you know to do these kinds of things. You know, when it comes to perseverance and learning, you can really improve yourself and you can really learn new skills, right? When it comes to intelligence, it's something dynamic. It's something that can grow, and so you know, and it's also the idea of not fearing failure. You know, failure can actually teach you. You know, it can mold you. It can improve things. And so having this growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset that, oh no, I cannot improve, I cannot get better, or my job cannot get better. Yeah, a growth mindset really helps you to develop, you know, personally and professionally. So yeah, so just always remember to use constructive feedback, like at work or something. You know, maybe ask for some feedback on something specific. You know, like I gave this talk. What did you think? What could I improve? You know, I did this. You know, what could I do better for next time? And use that constructive feedback as an opportunity to improve. You know, see it as a gift. You know, don't see it as something negative against you. You know, see it as a gift that's being given to you to help you to grow. And so yeah, so I find that letting go of failure, you know, this fear of failure or this fear of criticism or fear of judgment from others, you know, once you kind of free yourself, you know, it's really helpful. You know, learn to like try to not take it personally, and use that critique and failure as a valuable teacher. Okay, and then something else I like to think about, and this came from a CTF I did, where I did my first reverse engineering challenge, is to try to reverse engineering your life. So basically, just imagine where you want to be 5 years from now, for example. You know, where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? And work your way backwards. You know, from that point to the year before, to the position before, or the thing before, and just work out the steps that you need to take now. You know, even a small baby step, the steps that you need to take to get from here to there. And I find that by doing that, it's actually really kind of helped me to see more clearly, you know, my 1-year plan or 5-year plan, you know, how can I get there? So figure out how do I get from now to where I want to be and build that future that you want. So yeah, so just to close, I just wanted to share with you probably one of my favorite quotes from Susie Kasem. It's that doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. So yeah, so if you love a subject or if you have a big dream, just don't be afraid. If you're able to, go after it. Thank you. So yeah, I don't know if anyone's got any questions.
Wonderful. So one question for the audience is, how did you start in cybersecurity?
Okay. Okay, so with cybersecurity, I did a lot of reading and studying on my own time. I did the Cyber Mentor free online course. I also did some Coursera and Udemy stuff. And basically what I did is I spun up my own virtualized lab environment. And you know, that way I could do it in a sandbox environment. And I mostly learned Linux, command line, and then, yeah, just some of the technical aspects of security that interested me, you know, and about the different kinds of exploits that exist, you know, the different kinds of breaches, you know, the different types of hacking. And And how I got into it was when I went back to school at 29 years old for computer science. As I had mentioned, there was an internship for security. And they didn't need someone that was very experienced because it was for students, right? And so what I did is I applied to that, and I showed to them that, I know how to use Linux, how to do command line. I know how to do some basic pen testing stuff and things like that in a Linux environment. And and I knew a bit about network security. So those were the two things I would say really helped me, was Linux and network security. And so I applied to that internship, and I ended up getting it. And then that's how I started my journey in security. And then I've been just upskilling and building onto that. Yeah. Anything else?
And one more question would be,
Yeah.
what about who are the people who have helped you? Like, is there anyone you're most grateful for your career?
Sorry, can you just repeat that? Sorry, I didn't.
Who are you most grateful for? Like, the people who have really helped your career.
That's a really good one. Yeah, I would say there's a couple that definitely shine out for me, of people that I know. So there's Lisa Ventura. So she's from the UK Cybersecurity Association, and she's a CEO. And she actually put out a book of women in cybersecurity, and she asked me to contribute to that book. And so that was an amazing opportunity, especially given how early experience I am. And there's also Aaron Leverett. So Aaron he's kind of a renowned hacker in the community. He's done lots of talks at DEF CON, Black Hat. He does a lot of research on industrial control system security. And yeah, he's an amazing person. And he was literally probably the first person who told me, you can do this, you will make it in cybersecurity, even when I didn't believe him at first. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Celine. I think that's time. So thank you for everything. We really appreciate your talk. Nathan, thank you so much for moderating, and we hope to see you at the next session.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.